California, known as the Golden State, is not only famous for its beaches, Hollywood and Silicon Valley, but it's also a powerhouse in US agriculture. With more than 45 million acres of farmland, making up nearly 40% of the state's total area, California contributes over $55 billion annually to the US economy. That's not just a statistic, it's a livelihood, a community, and food on your table. So how does this diverse and high-yield system grow over 400 different crops and provide jobs for more than 420,000 people every year? Let's answer that by exploring some of its most iconic products. First, we'll dive into nuts. California is the global leader in almond, walnut, and pistachio production, producing 80% of the world and nearly 100% of the US's supply. Each of these nuts pumps over $5 billion into the state's economy every year. From August until November, farmers start to prepare for the harvest. Nut farmers use tree shaker machines for this task and leave them to dry for around 5 to 7 days, depending on the moisture content of the kernel. For almonds, each machine can handle 30 to 60 trees per hour, allowing billions of pounds of almonds to be harvested every season. Then, the nuts are swept into a window to prepare for collection by the harvesting machine, which can filter out the nuts from the dirt and soil. In 2023, California harvested 2.6 billion pounds of almonds, 1.65 billion pounds of walnuts, and 1.36 billion pounds of pistachios. Rising labour costs are also driving the use of advanced technologies like automated sorting and shelling machines at processing plants that can sift through thousands of pounds of nuts per hour. In addition to nuts, California's grape industry is another giant. The season varies by type, but table grapes are harvested from May until January, while wine grapes peak from August until October. For high-end wine, grapes are often harvested at night, when the cooler temperatures help preserve sugar content and flavour. This rule is strictly followed, especially during heat waves. The wine industry generates over $70 billion annually for the US, so harvesters also join in with skilled pickers who hand cut each cluster under the headlights. The state grows over 6 million tons of grapes every year, and 81% of those are used to make wine. That translates into billions of bottles of wine exported to over 140 countries. In contrast, table grapes and raisins are harvested during the day. Have you ever eaten these premium moondrop grapes? They are more expensive than any other type, so workers here pick them more carefully. They even trim out the bad grapes before moving on to other bunches. The table grapes are often packaged at the vines right after harvesting to make sure they are washed thoroughly before eating. California grows 99% of raisins in the US, with more than 185,000 acres dedicated to raisin grapes, mainly in Fresno. Each bunch typically weighs between 1 to 2 pounds and is laid on the ground for days to dry under the California sun. Then workers collect them for washing and packaging. However, California's vineyards are increasingly under threat. Every time there's a wildfire alert nearby, the vineyard workers have to race all day and all night to save grapes from approaching fires. Sometimes more than 20,000 pounds of grapes must be harvested in just 8 hours. Hence, mechanized harvesters are also becoming more common for this type of grape. Next, let's explore another special vegetable, California tomatoes. Tomato harvest season here runs from late June through October. The state produces nearly 26 billion pounds annually, mainly grown in the Central Valley and the San Joaquin Valley. Giant tomato harvesters equipped with optical sensors distinguish ripe red tomatoes from unripe green ones. These machines can harvest up to 120,000 pounds of tomatoes per day. In 2023, California's tomato crop reached over 22.3 billion pounds, valued at more than $1 billion. Tomatoes aren't just a staple in the US food market, they're a global export. California accounts for over 95% of the nation's processed tomatoes and nearly half of the world's supply. In 2023, the state's tomatoes were shipped to over 60 countries, including Canada, China, and Japan, as ketchup, soups, and sauces. But California doesn't stop there. Broccoli from here is known for its vibrant green colour, firm stalks, and tight, compact flower heads that are around 0.75 to 1.5 pounds. Harvesting broccoli remains a manual job. Workers move down each row, quickly cutting the heads off with sharp knives and handing them off to packers in the field. Yield averages around 12,000 pounds per acre, depending on growing conditions. Broccoli is harvested year-round, extending from late November through April in cooler regions and into summer for some areas, like the coastal city of Monterey and Santa Barbara counties, where 92% of the nation's broccoli is grown. In 2023, California produced 3.6 million pounds of broccoli, worth around $820 million. Much of that is exported to major markets, including Canada, Mexico, Japan, and various countries in Europe and Asia. Next, let's visit California's dairy farms. Dairy is the state's top agricultural commodity, so they have the best milking system. Tulare County is the largest milk producer in the state, accounting for around 27% of California's milk output. Automated robotic milking systems are used here to milk 360 to 420 cows per hour, ensuring their comfort with only 3 workers required. With 1.7 million dairy cows, California produces over 40.5 billion pounds of milk annually, accounting for around 18.5% of the nation's supply. While California sets the gold standard for specialty crops, Iowa dominates the major crops like corn and soybeans. Iowa leads the nation in corn production, growing 20% of the country's total, or around 2.6 billion bushels annually. Over 90% of the state's farmland, which is equivalent to 12.5 million acres, or 5.05 million hectares, is used to grow corn. These fields not only provide food, but also fuel, with 47% of the crop used to produce ethanol. In addition to corn, Iowa ranks second in the nation for soybean production, just behind Illinois. With nearly 620 million bushels harvested from nearly 10 million acres of soybean fields every day, soybeans are crucial for everything from livestock feed to cooking oil and biofuels. China is the largest importer of Iowa's soybeans. Eggs are another Iowa specialty, making up around 15% of the nation's total egg production. With nearly 60 million chickens, Iowa produces 15 billion eggs each year, making it the leading producer in the US. Highly automated facilities ensure efficiency and sustainability, with conveyor belts, climate-controlled barns, and automated feeding systems. These systems keep Iowa eggs affordable while meeting strict safety and quality standards. In addition to corn, soybeans, and eggs, potatoes are also a major crop in Iowa. Here, potato harvesting begins in July and runs through October. About 4,500 to 5,000 acres are dedicated to potatoes, with mechanical harvesters collecting thousands of pounds per hour. The state produces around 500 million pounds of potatoes annually. After harvesting, potatoes are stored in large warehouses before being washed and processed into crisps, fries, and mashed potatoes. What's going on during the harvest months of a sixth-generation farm? Millions of pounds of fresh vegetables and fruits are picked. Oaks Farm in northern Pennsylvania spans 400 acres, 80 acres of that being strictly vegetables, while the rest are other crops and livestock barns. Customers travel from all over the country to buy fresh produce and a variety of local food from their farm markets. Big old farms like this used to be all the rage in the US, but in the last decade, especially in 2023, 139 farm bankruptcies were filed.
Been having a great day with the skunk stinking up the farm market, the cows smashing their fence, and destroying $10,000 worth of plants.
So how, against all odds, has Oaks Farm kept their big family farm alive for more than 150 years? A special thanks to Andrew Oaks from the Veggie Boys YouTube channel for generously allowing us to reuse their inspiring content for our documentaries.
Today's been a good day so far.
Oaks Farm starts the seeding in February in their 7 large greenhouses. This air seeder allows them to put up to 512 seeds in one tray at a time. Then in May, all the seedlings are transplanted in the field.
You can see as I'm transplanting here, I take right at the base of the roots and I push down with my fingertips. That makes sure that the roots are pushed down into the soil and that I'm not breaking the stem of the plant.
June is the harvest time for many green veggies, such as cabbage. If this farm market needs a lot of cabbage, it won't be harvested one by one. The farmers will cut and roll them into rows like this for faster collection later. On a vast field, the brothers are picking corn from an order of 300 corn cobs from a local restaurant.
When we look at the ear of corn, the number one thing we're looking for is that the silk is completely dried down. The second thing I do is as I'm picking, I will squeeze with my hand, and if I can feel that the top of the corn is rounded off and it is a firm ear, then I know it's ready to be pulled.
Another sunrise, and today the Oaks farmers go out in the field to harvest the sugar snap peas. These peas are super sweet and are one of the best sellers here. On another field, these brothers are rooting up the beets by hand. With a small special knife, farmers cut the base of each broccoli and put it in the basket one by one. The broccoli here are all giant and of high quality, which makes all the hard work seem worth it.
Harvesting vegetables is fun as it is, but when you're harvesting huge vegetables, giant vegetables, massive vegetables, oh, that makes this job way more fun.
Starting from August and September is when a variety of peppers are picked, such as the Cuban peppers or Cubanelle, and it's $10 for half a bushel. For hot cherry peppers, it's $14 for half a bushel.
Perfect peppers, or you find those perfect tomatoes, it's just a good feeling. But when you find those perfect large peppers or tomatoes, man, that's just a better feeling.
And bell peppers, which the farm grows a lot of because they run out pretty quick. The pepper picking sound is probably what everyone likes to hear the most.
One last thing I'd like to mention about Italianelle, these are one of my favorite peppers to eat because they have a crunch that is like no other. What a good pepper.
Have you ever heard of a pepper variety called lunchbox pepper before? Well, they have it here on the farm too. It's also known as jingle bell peppers. Harvesting, washing, and bringing the produce to the farm and then going back to the field for more harvest is the farmer's routine during these busy harvest months. The Oaks farm also plants a lot of other crops, from cauliflower and cucumber to zucchini and kohlrabi, which needs a little trimming after harvest. But that's not all. Tomatoes are also one of Andrew's favourite crops to harvest. He and his brothers go through around 80 baskets every time, or just 10 if it's the end of the harvest, because during that time, tomatoes are easily spoiled if not sold quickly. The round tomatoes have thinner skin, so their stems are pulled off so that they don't puncture the flesh when stacked up in the harvest baskets. The stems are left intact for the plum tomatoes because they have thicker skin. Back at the processing facility, the harvested produce such as beets and cucumbers are washed in buckets, while others are conveyed through a washer. As the tomatoes are washed, the farmers sort through them. Those that are not fully ripe go directly to the farm market so that they have time to ripen, while the ripe ones, which look a lot redder, are made into canned tomatoes. Every day, hundreds of baskets of fruit and vegetables are washed here. Andrew noted that it's just a quick wash to make sure the produce looks cleaner and more appealing to the customers, so you need to rewash it before eating when buying at the farm market. Most of the veggies are harvested by hand, but as the quantity of crops increases throughout the years, harvesters are also used for legumes such as yellow beans and green beans. As the big box of green beans is filled, the farmers sort out all the debris and other things that they don't want in the beans. Grains like wheat are also harvested by big machines. The potatoes are first dug up and gathered into one row by machine. This is done to let them dry out right on the field and to allow the farmers to pick them up faster. Only the good ones are picked to sell at the farm market.
Now, even though there is a lot here, you will see us leaving some behind. For the most part, it will be stuff like this that is grain. Another thing is why there is green on the potatoes is because there was so much here that the potatoes that were growing underneath pushed them up and there was not enough soil coverage and the sun turned them green.
After that, bins of potatoes are washed and the dirt is cleaned off. The Oaks Farm Market sells produce in different quantities. Here, Andrew is filling a 10-pound bag and 50-pound bag with potatoes. As for tomatoes, they sell them in boxes like this. Produce that doesn't need to be displayed yet will be stocked up in the cooler room at the back of the farm market. At the fruit field, hundreds of huge watermelons and cantaloupes are being harvested every week.
At these watermelons. Oh, that's a fat boy, all right. That's the Andy of watermelons.
As the end of the year approaches, the Veggie Boys also harvest pumpkins for their Halloween pumpkin patches. The Oaks Farm prides themselves on working together to get everything done, from seedling, harvesting, and processing. Besides vegetables, grains, and fruits, the Oaks Farm also has many chickens and nearly 50 head of beef cattle too. The main source of feed for these livestock is the ground grain crops that the Oaks grow all year round. Besides this, their animals are fed fresh fruits like lots of tomatoes and sometimes pumpkins.
We figured out this is the best thing to do with it because one, it acts as that natural dewormer, and two, it's free feed value.
So they are healthier with stronger immune systems. This ultimately makes their meat and eggs packed with great nutrients.
Whenever that washer turns on over there, the cattle get excited because they know they're either getting peppers, tomatoes, or potatoes, and they love the sound of it.
After the grain crops are harvested, the brothers use this machine to collect the fresh and dried bales. They are all stacked up in the warehouse for the cattle to eat throughout the year. Every few days, brown eggs are picked and sold fresh on the farm for $3.50 a dozen. The Oaks Farm isn't open every day of the week. They are closed 3 days a week during winter. But in autumn, it gets busier, as Thanksgiving, the US's biggest holiday, approaches. All the fresh produce from the Oaks Farm and the local farmers have to be stocked up regularly to meet the customers' demand. And probably the thing that attracts customers the most is all the baked goods, such as apple pies, pumpkin pies, and chocolate cakes with peanut butter that Grandma and the girls make. The order volume used to go up to 300 pies a week, which is a lot for a small operation. So now they are only sold during special occasions. But running a family farm with a big market like the Oaks isn't without its challenges. One of the biggest challenges they faced during COVID-19 in 2020 was keeping their produce and other products stocked at the market to serve the community as they were quickly sold out. Then, in July of the same year, escaped cattle broke through the gate, causing a loss of around $10,000, as over 3,000 cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower crops were damaged. And the most recent tropical storm, referred to as Tropical Storm Debbie, caused rows of peppers to be visibly tattered from the high winds, and the cucumbers were at risk of growing too large if they weren't harvested in time. Additionally, fields that were being swamped due to excessive rainfall and put newly planted zucchini at risk. So, they tried to work around the storms by picking crops in short bursts, taking shelter when the weather worsened, and returning to the field as soon as conditions allowed. After all the big and small hardships, the Oaks family farm still thrives, 6 generations and counting. What really keeps them afloat is their passion and legacy for sustainable farming and serving the community with quality produce and food sources locally.